How we doing, folks? John here. Welcome to the Sleepy Writer Podcast. I think this is episode 3. And for whatever reason, anytime it pertains to writing, I kind of get this voice like I'm trying to sell you a ShamWow. I don't know if I try and be more fancy. I don't know what it is. Subliminal, I guess. So I do apologize. If you're brand new here, yes, folks, this is the same John from Prepper Nation. A lot of you jumped over here as a backup channel. However, I do actually earn my living writing books. Prepper Nation is not my primary source of income, and thank God for that, I might add. So we talk writing over here, and if you're checking it out on YouTube, thank you very much. However, this is an audio-only podcast, and the reason for that, it is actually available everywhere you can pick up a podcast. iHeartRadio, I assume, iTunes, SoundCloud, the whole 9 yards. So if you're into podcasting, you should be able to find us over there. Anyway, today we're going to talk about 2 very important things. Number 1, if you're an aspiring author, what do you need to do to get started? What tools do you need to complete your writing project? We're going to talk about that from start to finish. And then number 2, we're going to be talking about mistakes that newer authors make. And I have made plenty, let me tell you. You can learn from my mistakes. And also what you're going to need to do in order to be successful in the industry, okay? So first of all, let's talk about writing tools. You're going to need a computer. Hopefully, most of you have a computer. And this computer does not have to be a $3,000 gaming PC, okay? This can be a netbook. This can be a very old computer. All you have to do is run basic level programs on this computer, so you don't need anything super fancy. I'm also going to strongly encourage you to get a USB keyboard, because if you are doing a lot of writing, you will wear, especially with laptops, you're going to wear them out fast, the keyboards on laptops. I found that out the hard way, okay? I started with a netbook, and thank goodness that I got a USB keyboard. I was smart enough to do that. You're going to need some sort of an editor. We were talking about this last week. So the first few books that I wrote, I tried to self-edit. And I also had one of my friends, Scott, he is a librarian by trade, read through the books. So he kind of did the beta reading for me. And he was supposed to come back and say, hey, this part sucks, this part sucks. You need to switch it up, and to find grammatical errors. What ended up happening, God love him, man, the book was brilliant. It was always brilliant. I guess he was afraid to tell me, hey, you need to change this part, it sucks. In hindsight, I wish he would have done that. It would have saved me some trouble. But you need an editor, okay? You need a fresh set of eyes other than your own, because when you are writing a story, you're too close to it. You're going to miss a lot of things as an author, okay? So this can be a best friend who reads a lot. This can be some communities have libraries where you can meet up for a reading critique group. And all you do is you meet up, you hand your manuscript over to somebody else, they hand you theirs, you proofread for them, and vice versa, okay? Or, as I discovered, this is the best way, hire a professional, somebody that does this for a living. So I will put his email down below. He's very reasonable. Because when I started, I didn't have a huge budget, guys. So he starts at $100. It depends on the length of the book. Many professional editors, they're going to charge you per page, as long as it's not, just a 2,000 pager. He'll start at $100. So he's very reasonable, and he's good. He's edited for me and then also other authors. You're going to need lots of coffee. I'm drinking some now, actually. You're going to need coffee, or some people go with tea, hot tea. Some people go with whiskey, whatever you fancy. You're going to need a lot of whatever it is. You're going to need a basic writing program. This is where you see authors break rank, okay? Some people go for all of the stuff. I've met authors, and they literally will not write on anything but Apple products. They don't trust anything else. And so Apple has its own writing programs. A lot of the people that stick with PCs and Windows, myself included, they will go with Word, because Word is installed on a lot of the newer computers and things. If it's not installed, you have to purchase it. It's a couple of $100s. I actually use openoffice.org. They have a website. It is freeware, and it's a legit program. It does everything Word does, and I found it to be easier to use. But you're going to need some sort of writing program, okay? For the folks asking, no, you're not going to be able to publish it longhand. I wish you could use the notebooks, or maybe one of the old school typewriters. Now you can do your rough draft this way. Stephen King does this, believe it or not. His first draft of every single book that he puts out, he writes it out longhand. How do I know this? Because I have an advanced copy of one of his books, Lizzie's Story. And yeah, an advanced reader copy where I went through and there are errors in there. But he has a couple of hundred people that beta read and stuff. That's the only one I have, unfortunately. But he does. He writes out longhand first, and then he goes back, and when he's typing it into the computer, that's when he makes a lot of his changes on his second draft. So you will need a writing program. And finally, you're going to need an account at a place like Shutterstock. And there are other places as well, but you're going to need some sort of cover art. You can get away with Shutterstock. Again, I think it's $25 to set the account up, and that's going to bring you 10 different pieces of artwork that you can use commercially. Or if you're not comfortable putting that into a paint program and coming up with your own text, you can hire someone to do this for you. There are plenty of websites where they sell them ready to go. They'll just put your name and your title on there and it's ready to go. They sell unique covers and things. So you're going to need that to get started. And after you have all of that set up, you're going to open your writing program and you're going to start writing. And that's really all there is to it until you finish the rough draft. Again, you can go with Stephen King's method and write everything out longhand. We all have our own methods. Every author is different in this respect. So what I do is I'll take a notebook, and the first page of the notebook, I'm kind of going to, not really storyboard, but I'm going to timeline when certain things are going to happen. We're going to have this happen in X numbered chapter. I'm going to have this happen in the middle of the story, and then the rest of the notebook is filled up with the main characters and maybe even some of the background characters. And I'm going to brainstorm, what is this character about? Where did this character come from? We'll get into characters, but this is very important, at least for my style of writing, okay? So I have a complete backstory on all of my main characters right there to pull from, and that way I don't forget. So when you finish your writing project, and you've got it edited, folks, okay, you've got it edited, no first draft is ready to be published, ever. Some people do 2 drafts, some people do 4 or 5, or even more. You want to get it edited. There are 3 places that you're going to look at online. And this is going to, all 3 places, they're free to use. You have to set up accounts, but it's totally free. And this is going to make you available everywhere, okay? The first is Kindle Direct Publishing. A majority of your income as an author is going to come from here. This is going to publish you to the Amazon Kindle. All of the digital e-readers that Amazon puts out, a lot of the smartphones and tablets that are coming out now, they have the Kindle pre-installed. So people already have this technology in their hand. It's literally a matter of finding your book, which we'll talk about in another episode. There are ways to do it, and clicking download or purchase, whatever the case may be. Number 2, Draft to Digital is the second website, and their website is everything beyond Amazon. Okay, so this is going to hit the Kobo reader, the Sony reader, if it's still floating around out there, the Barnes & Noble Nook, all of the other e-readers that do not have the Amazon logo on them. They all have their own independent stores. But by going through Draft to Digital, it's going to splash your work on all of the other websites, the stores. It's going to make you available. It's going to skip Amazon. because this is the competitor to Amazon. Okay, so again, Kindle Direct Publishing and Draft to Digital, these two are specifically for ebooks, which is going to be a huge portion of your reading crowd. Finally, CreateSpace. CreateSpace gives you the option for paperback books and also hardcover books. And it is owned by Amazon. Just a disclaimer there, okay? It is tough to format, and we're going to talk about formatting in a moment, but it is tough to format a paperback book. Oftentimes you will see people that have ebooks available and no paperback books or hardbacks, and the reason for it is the formatting is totally different, okay? So getting into the things now that you're going to need for your writing program, templates are available all over the place online. So if you, for example, if you want to write a book, you know you're publishing to Amazon, you're going to have to download a Kindle Direct Publishing template. Again, these are free online. These allow you to open the template up in your writing program. Again, for me, it's Open Office. It could be Word for you, whatever. You open it up and you basically copy and paste your story into the template. You can do your chapters here. You can do all of the information, the links. You can put in links to websites. And then you're going to upload this to Kindle Direct Publishing. And because you used an actual template, they're going to accept the manuscript and everything's going to check out okay. You may make mistakes at first. You may have to go in and change a couple of things, maybe a paragraph or two, you forgot to indent them or something when you're copying and pasting. But at the end of the day, you're going to be on the Amazon Kindle. And then unfortunately, you're going to have to download a second template, Draft to Digital. And then you're going to have to copy and paste. But again, the template is going to look completely different because they use different file types. So everything looks jumbled up. If you try to use the Kindle Direct Publishing on the Draft to Digital, you're going to have words misplaced all over the place. I mean, it's going to look like nonsense. So you need both templates. Again, they're free online. Finally, let me see here. For the paperback, you're going to need a third template. And this is where it gets tough, folks. Because if there's a template floating around, I never found it. What I had to do, and it took me approximately 2 weeks, I took an Amazon Kindle file that I had. I uploaded it to CreateSpace, which again is for paperback books. And it was all jumbled up. So I would click the preview, and then I had to pull the file up beside me. And I had to go in and I had to change everything line by line of this entire book and continue to upload it every page or two to see if the changes had taken effect, if it looked any better, trial and error. And I finally, after a couple of weeks, got to the point where I had a workable paperback template. Now, the problem with hardbacks is it's totally different than paperbacks. So again, if you see somebody that has an ebook available, if they have a paperback available and a hardback, they have went through this nonsense 3 different times. They've put in a lot of wrench work, a lot of wrench time, if you will. So, I mean, just to understand that that's going to probably be more painful than writing the story itself. If I'm shooting straight here, okay? It is like getting your teeth pulled. But once you get to the finish line, you feel very accomplished, okay? I'm just saying. So let's switch over now to new authors, mistakes they might make, etc. The 3 biggest mistakes that new or aspiring authors make. Number 1, they never finish. I have met and I've talked to so many people that they've written a manuscript or they've started a manuscript and kind of put it up on a shelf somewhere, forgotten about it, or y'all know how it is. Life takes over. You know, there are priorities in our lives. Maybe you're married, maybe you have kids. I feel you on that one, by the way. And you lose track of time. You put it off, you know. If you're going to be a writer, You have to get conditioned to write every single day. That's the only way. You have to push yourself to the finish line. Now, some people do NaNoWriMo, which is a novel month in which people kind of encourage one another on social media, or they will post how many pages they do or word counts on a certain day. How many did we write? There are different groups. Hey, we're going to write 1,000 words today. Are you in or out? And then this kind of pushes you across the finish line. Here's the problem. I don't like NaNoWriMo, because if you need a support group to push your sorry butt over the finish line, you're never going to have success. And I'm just being as blunt as I can be about it. If you're going to make a living writing, you're going to have to push your own sorry butt. You're going to have to get out of bed, on mornings when you don't feel like getting out of bed. You're going to have to stay up late when you don't feel like staying up late. Them's the breaks, as they say. It's like any other job. Now, if you're just doing it for pleasure, you just want to get one out of your system before you pass away, if you just have one story to tell, totally different ballgame. Take 20 or 30 years if that's you. Totally fine. But if you intend on doing this for a living and you want to get paid for it, and you dream of a day when you can sit behind a desk and write for a living because you saw it on Hallmark and it just looks really cool, yeah, you need to understand it's like any other job. If you work in a factory and you don't show up for work, you're out of a job. You have no income. What are some jobs here? If you're a lawyer and you don't show up for court, you're not going to have many clients left. You get what I'm saying? A job is a job. And if writing is going to be your job, you're going to have to work. And you're not going to wake up every morning and say, man, I just don't feel like going to work today. And have an entire support system in your bedroom saying, oh no, John, son, get out of bed. It's time to get up and get your shoes on and all this stuff. You're not going to have that. You're not going to have that with any other job, and you're definitely not going to have it with writing. You have to discipline yourself. That's mistake number one for newer writers. Number two, and this is one that I made. We all going to make one or the other, okay? I'm not singling anybody out. I made the second one, and that is info dumping at the beginning of a book. You open the book, and the first chapter is dedicated to the entire backstory at one time. Nobody wants to read that. I wish I would have known that when I first started. Again, I wish my buddy Scott, who obviously knew better, been reading his entire life, I wish he would have came to me and said, John, you're dumping all the information up front. You need to spread it out across the book. But no, the first couple of books, I dumped the information. And again, I'm not fans of the books. They have their own cult following online, but I'm not even a fan of them because they're hard for me to go back and read. I learned along the way, you don't dump the background information in chapter one. You spread it again throughout the book. You sprinkle it in here and there. This keeps the reader wanting to turn the pages, okay? And number three, and a pet peeve of mine, I got to be honest. These people are worse than the people that just don't want to write, okay? The people that can't get up in the mornings and go to work. This is actually worse. Number three is people that overwrite. Have you ever read a book, you open it up, and words are just there that shouldn't be there? This is a telltale sign of somebody who's brand new at writing. They're trying to say something, but they're trying to be overly fancy to the point that the reader's just sitting there thinking, nobody talks like this in real life. Nobody uses words that are 35 letters long in a conversation during dialogue. Nobody does that. It's okay to use a clever word here and there. For example, spitball in here, instead of saying white or white as snow, maybe you say it was stark white. Okay, stark white. Kind of rolls off the tongue. But you're not given some fantastical way of putting things that's just going to make the reader scratch their head. Okay? If you're one of these people, I'm not bashing you, but please stop doing it, because when you look like you're trying way too hard, readers pick up on that. The troubling part about the reading and the writing industry in general, we're not selling stuff to idiots. People that read a lot of books, this is the most educated market there is. You're not fooling anybody. Okay, throwing a bunch of fancy words, and it's kind of like you're beating your chest as an author and you're saying, look at all these words I know. Nobody cares. I'm not trying to be rude about it, but nobody cares. You know, these authors know what they mean. The readers that are reading it, they understand what it means, but they don't care. They care about the story. So let's get into what sells a story, okay? And again, this is something that I made the mistake of info dumping when I was first getting started. I didn't realize this. You'll hear this in the lit community a lot. One of my favorite sayings, I tell my kids this all the time. I say, if you hang out at a barber shop long enough, you're eventually going to get a haircut, okay? If you hang out with the right crowd, eventually you're going to pick up the right crowd's habits. Okay, so to take it a step further, if you hang out with people that are always in trouble with the law, maybe they're into drugs and stuff, you may start out there for the right reasons. You may actually care about the people, but eventually guess what's going to happen? You're going to be in trouble with the law and you're going to be on drugs. Not to be ranting here, but as it pertains to the writing industry, if you hang out with people that have good habits, you're going to pick those habits up. All right, so this is a habit that I picked up. The first chapter in your book sells the book. If you look at some of my later work, what you're going to discover is no longer is there an info dump there. It starts with action. There may be a half page to explain the setting. In other times, there's not. I wrote one time where the woman was running. She was running frantically for her life. You know, in ankle deep snow. She was praying as she was running. She was rambling. She was begging. And what this does is the reader wants to know why. Why is this person running? Now the reader is engaged. They're asking questions about the story, okay, as long as you're not using fancy terms, ultra fancy terms. The first chapter sells the book. The last chapter sells the next book. This is something else that I picked up on. Okay, so you want to begin strong. That's going to lead to a purchase of a book. The reader's engaged. You want to end not necessarily with a happy ending all the time. This thing, again, with the Hallmark, it doesn't always have to end like a Hallmark movie. Sometimes you can end with an event that continues to engage the reader, and then you just cut the lights out on them, basically. And this person now is chewing their fingernails waiting on the second book. The last chapter sells the next book in the series, okay? Your job as an author is to entertain. You need to understand that you're in the entertainment business now, son. You're an entertainer. Seriously though, guys, your job is not to write the next War and Peace or the next Lord of the Rings. If you can do that, great. If you are born with that kind of natural talent, that's awesome. But usually people who have that level of talent, they're miserable in real life. You don't want to be that. Okay, you just need to be good at what you do. You don't have to be the Michael Jordan to make a living in the writing industry. You just have to be on the level, of an NBA player to some degree. And I don't even watch the NBA. I'm just using an analogy here. Your job is to entertain. If somebody picks up a fiction book and they're not entertained in the first chapter, guess what they're going to do? They're going to close the fiction book and they're never going to try it again, okay? And somebody is blowing my phone up, son. I am so sorry here. Ghetto Podcast 101. All right, so your job is to entertain, period. If you can engage the reader, if they open a book and you hook them in the first chapter, and then you sprinkle the backstory along throughout the entire story, you're going to keep them invested in the story. Another trick that I use is characters. Characters sell the story. You hook them at the beginning, and then you give them characters they care about. I learned this because I've read since I was 8 years old. If I pick up a story, I don't care what the plot is. If I can identify with a character and sometimes I'm rooting for that character to succeed in the story and for things to turn out okay. Other times I'm rooting against that character. I want to see that character get his or her due in the end. But as long as the characters are believable and you can relate to these characters, the reader will continue to turn the pages, I promise you. And that is why I was telling you folks earlier, I take an entire notebook and each page is dedicated to one character. Because if you just say, he looked like a gunslinger and that's it, that's all you give the reader, they don't care. They want to know more about this character than he had a gunslinger's mustache. Why? Why did he have a gunslinger's mustache? Why was he wearing boots? What is his backstory? What is up with the scar on the back of his neck? They want to know this kind of stuff. And so if you write it down ahead of time before you start, your writing project, you have it right there. You can pull from it very easily. And because you've put in that work before you started writing, that's going to reflect in the story. The characters become very good. They become very deep. They're not cookie cutter characters at that point. And again, I didn't know this up front. This is something I learned along the way. But honestly, folks, to close things down, to be treated seriously, you must take it seriously. If you're talking about writing and you're saying, yeah, I just do it on the side, and you're not taking it seriously, nobody else is going to either. But if you begin to take it seriously, if you poke that chest out and you say, yeah, I write books for a living, I write fiction. I had a problem telling people this for a while. I told them, hey, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I was trying to avoid the conversation. But I got to the point, I'm like, I've published 10 or 11 books, novels. How many of my friends have done that? What am I ashamed of? They couldn't do it. They probably could, but they wouldn't have the discipline to sit down and do it. So then I became very proud of it. Not in an arrogant way, but I'm not ashamed of the fact that I write books. It's very hard work. And I started to take it more seriously. And to close out, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Sometimes when I'm sitting down to write, I write in the office. You Prepper Nation folks have seen The Office. Sometimes I write at the kitchen table as well. When I sit down to write sometimes, and I know I have to get a lot of work done, I'm shooting for, let's say, 15 pages that day, which is a lot. You guys that have written, you understand. So I will dress up. I'm not talking about a tuxedo, but I will put a button-up dress shirt on. I'll put some slacks on. I'll put some dress shoes on because I read this ridiculous, but it turns out not so ridiculous, article one time where people that dress for success typically get more done during the day. And I actually sat down and I tried writing in my pajamas. Yeah, folks, I wear pajamas. I know. And I tried writing when I was dressed up. And sure enough, the word count was popping way up there when I was dressed up. I was taking it seriously. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know, again, if it's subliminal. I don't know what it is. But there's something about taking yourself seriously, taking the craft seriously that matters. At the end of the day, fiction, you can look at it and you can say, it doesn't really matter. But then again, we are communicating with people way on down the line. Here's what I mean, and I'll close out. I'm looking at a book right now, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. It's a red book. It has black font on it. It's got the headless horseman. Okay. If somebody's listening to this podcast 100 years from now, they don't actually see the book that I'm looking at, but now they know what it looks like because I've explained what it looks like. It's about 350 pages. It's a pretty big book, hardback. So now they know what it looks like. You have the ability to put stuff in front of people without actually putting it in front of them. That is your job as a storyteller, and you need to take that seriously, okay? God bless each and every one of you. If you need some sort of a template, reach out to me. I may have it on my computer. I'll send it to you for free, or I may have a link to one online, and I'd be glad to kick you the link. If you're into writing, get serious about it. Give it a serious effort, and good luck with that. Take care, and God bless.